just behind me is where hundreds of MPs are going to be doing the Mogg conga later. We're going to be queuing. It's going to be like queuing for a ride at Alton Towers. That just turns out to be a bit shit. I mean, this is a terrible way of doing things. It deprives people of their MPs being able to take decisions for those MPs that are being shielded. It reinforces the message that you need to be able-bodied to be an MP, that we're not living by our values of extending those who are elected to categories of people who are traditionally underrepresented, disabled people being one of those. It is depriving people of their voice in Parliament. It's bad for democracy. There's a solution that works perfectly well, which is the online voting system. And I'm afraid the government has taken the wrong call here, the wrong call to do it. And this is going to be ridiculous later. But of course, we're being told to avoid crowded places. I'll film a video later to show you what this place will look like with hundreds of people in. This is ridiculous, but this is what the government is making MPs do. Utterly, utterly ridiculous. It's this type of nonsense that erodes confidence in the government's ability to handle the crisis, and they need to think again and fast. MPs have started voting, haven't even got to Westminster Hall where the queue begins. I'm just by the tube entrance to Parliament between Portcullis House and the main palace, and there's a queue all the way back to the escalator to Portcullis House and all the way down there. We're going to be here for some time. Well, those that turn up will be. The problem is that I have lots of colleagues in all parties who aren't able to be here because they're shielding. What we're seeing from the government is discriminatory, and it sends the message that disabled people need not apply to be a member of Parliament because they'll be excluded from participating. That's the wrong message to send. The government should think again about this. They'll use their big majority to force through this and probably win it. But that doesn't mean they've won the argument. They've got this one wrong. Queuing update. Now queued all the way down from Portcullis House. We're now queuing up to Carriage Gates. We would get a nice view of Big Ben, but it's not there. It's lucky it's not raining because we're now queuing outside. Lots of MPs are obeying social distancing, 2 metres apart. Some high-profile ones are not. That's unfortunate, but not yet into Westminster Hall. Nearly there. As we're queuing here, I thought I'd give you a quick tour. This is Westminster Hall, which was started by Rufus, who's the son of William the Conqueror. It's the oldest and largest hammer beam ceiling in the world, certainly in Europe, and it gets its bits from, if you see where the wooden struts stick out, that carries part of the load of the roof. It's not just the exterior walls that does it. This has been the heart of British politics for hundreds of years. King Charles the First was tried over there. Mel Gibson's character in Braveheart was tried over there. It's where all the royals are laid in state, and so for my lifetime that's where Princess Diana and the Queen Mother were laid in state in the middle over there. And it's also where people, prominent international folk, address both houses of Parliament. So Nelson Mandela, the Queen, has addressed people here. Aung San Suu Kyi, before she became an apologist for massacres, addressed people in here as well. It really is a stunning building. It's been bombed and it's caught fire. In both cases, when Westminster Hall was ablaze, the House of Commons was allowed to burn to preserve Westminster Hall. Queuing in here means you can spend time in what I think is the most beautiful part of Parliament. I'm not a big fan of the glitz and glamour or the gold plating or the gold leaf that you see in the House of Lords or the House of Commons. This is for me the best bit of Westminster. 3 minutes into the vote. I'm now nearly at the end of the queue in Westminster Hall, about to go through past members' cloakroom, up some steps into a corridor, then into the corridor that takes you into members' lobby, and from members' lobby then it's a clear 100 metres into the dispatch box, where I get to shout my name and say aye or no, depending on which way I'm voting. But joining me on this lovely trip today, I have a number of fellow travellers. Here's one of them. This is Daniel Zeichner, is the MP for Cambridge.
Keeping 1 flagstone apart, as recommended apparently.
Keeping 1 2-metre flagstone apart at all times, and we are still going.
Name and voting, please.
Luke Pollard, aye.
Thank you.
Right, quick update. The government won that vote with a majority of 57. That means the amendment to continue the virtual remote voting fell. That was tabled by all the cross-party committee chairs. We're now, you'll be pleased to hear with the bells going on in the background, voting again. And so it took 38 minutes or so for the first vote, and here we are off again, and I'm off to find the back of the queue. What a ridiculous way to run a democracy. As an update, they've innovated with this vote. Instead of queuing down towards the tube station, we're queuing around the garden, around carriage gates. How exciting. It's a beautiful sunny day. Not sure how this would do if it was raining. Luke Pollard, no. So we've jumped the gun this time, and with the 8 o'clock vote, we've started queuing early. So myself and Abner from Erith and Thamesmead are in the queue, ready for our voting. Abner, what do you make of this voting system?
I think it's ridiculous. I could have got more work done. I could have got more work done if we'd done online voting. I spent like 45 minutes queuing twice.
Absolutely. What the vote showed earlier is that there were hundreds, nearly 200 MPs missing from the vote. That means MPs that weren't able to participate in the vote because they're being shielded or because they're living with someone who is shielded. That makes this voting system discriminatory. If this was any other workplace, it would be unlawful what Jacob Ree-Mogg has inflicted on people here. But because they are deliberately making Parliament out to be a joke, a farce, to try and reduce the impact of what is done here, it makes it really important that we expose that tactic. This is a terrible way of running a democracy in the 21st century. We need massive reform of the way that Parliament works to make it more accountable, more open, more transparent, but more welcoming, because the message that this voting system sends out is that you mustn't be disabled to have a career in public life. You mustn't be ill. You mustn't live with someone who is vulnerable, because if you do, you won't be allowed a say. And that means the communities that you're trying to represent won't have their voice here. That is wrong, and that is what Jacob Ree-Mogg and Boris Johnson have conspired to do with this new stupid, ridiculous, farcical, undemocratic, discriminatory voting system. As you can tell, I'm not a fan. Labour will continue to oppose this and make the case on sound, practical, reasonable grounds, based on the government's own advice to other workplaces, that this needs to change.